Papa Joe's Garage, 2017 Chevy Cruze. AC evaporator was leaking. Put my sniffer up in there next to the gas pedal up through the vent, and it started going all crazy. What sucked was it would kind of hold a vacuum for a day and a half, but put Freon in it, and 4 days later it was gone. And this got that 1234 YF crap. You know, $75 a can. But anyways, if you guys want to attempt to do this, man, it's a job. I think I could have did it without pulling the dash pad off, but it's not, the dash pad's not that hard. A bunch of 7mm screws. Just take your time. You know, there's one hiding up in there, a bunch that you can see. One was hiding there in the middle. Take the instrument cluster out, and you take the cluster out, and you take these two bottom screws out, right here, or no, up in here. A couple 7mm holding the cluster in. Then you got to take a screwdriver and go down through the top and push this tab in. Push that tab in, and the cluster will pop out. The vents, you know, they're supposed to just pop out. They just got the little clips holding them in, but they were a pain in the ass. You got to be careful so you don't break none of that crap. It's all cheesy plastic, but I think you can actually leave this on. It just makes it heavier, and it's going to be a two-man operation. But let me show you what really sucks about these Cruze, these 2017s anyway. When you're taking this goddamn dash out, you'll see a bolt right here looking at you, going through this steel, you know, and you can see the pins that they, you know, that big robot arm grabs a hold of this whole dash and sticks it in its place. I fought it and fought it. You got two pins on this plastic brake pedal deal that all this stays there. And there's two little pins, one here. You see I got it pushed in, and there's one here. So I'm gonna have to pop this one back in, but you stick two big screwdrivers up through here, and this plastic will pry to the side so that those pins come out of the holes in this steel. There's two holes right there. As a matter of fact, there's two bolts here, two bolts on this side when this is up in here, okay? It's got two bolts here, two bolts there. You got to pull the steering column out to get to them, and you'll see them two pins. You got to take two screwdrivers, wedge them in, and hold them pins in. That ain't bad. And of course, you got fucking wires and shit everywhere. And how are you supposed to get that top, that little sensor, the daytime or nighttime sensor that's in the top of the dash? Try to get that thing out without breaking it is a job. That was a pain in the you know what. But anyways, and it's got these tabs. You can see this one's mangled up. I couldn't see them. I was prying and prying, and it was after I figured out that once these bolts here, that ain't shit. It's got two more bolts right here going through the door jamb. One there and one down there. I pulled this bolt out to let the door open a little bit more, and it still wasn't enough. So I loosened the top hinges up on the doors, and that lets that bolt, and it's a Torx bit. It's like a 30 or 40 millimeter, or a 30 or 40 T30 or T40, I'm sorry. But you can't get a Torx bit and a ratchet in there. You probably maybe could if you got a little shallow whatever with, you know, the little bit with a shallow ratchet. I just put a pair of vice grips on them. They're not that tight, and just, you know, once you crack them loose, you can just stick your fingers in there and work them out. But you got to pull all four of them. There's two on this side and two on that side, and you got to get them out of these holes, and they go into these side. It's got these little bushings right here, and they go in there, and you got to get them out enough where they clear them things. I don't know why they decided to do it this way, but that really sucks. And then you can get it flipped over enough. I mean, I could have just undid some more wiring and pulled the whole thing out, but I just pulled it, you know, I had the center console out, which that comes out easy. But I flipped it over and worked a bazillion little T20 Torx screws out of there, and finally it popped apart. You got to take the heater core out first. It's in this hole down here, and it's got a bunch of screws hiding around this little cover. Here's the top half of it here, this top half, and this thing swings around and goes around your heater core tubes, you know, and your expansion valve, and should be sticking out of that hole. This thing's got a bunch of hidden screws up in it, so make sure you take your time and get all these screws out of that thing so that piece there will open up and you can get the heater core out. And then you start taking all the rest of T20s out of this, and it's got a couple hidden right here, one here and one, these go up that way through it, and there's another one on the other side coming up through it. Once I got them out, then this thing just kind of popped right apart, and the evaporator came right out. You wouldn't think a 2017 would have an evaporator issue, but like I said, you could probably leave the cluster in it, the dash pad on it and shit like that, but it's not that hard to get the pad out of the way. Here's another bolt that you're gonna have fun with. See this brace right here for your brake pedal and where the booster and shit would be? And it's got a bracket here, and when you look up in the hole from the steering column end, you'll see a nut up in there, but the nut is welded to it. So you got to come over here and pull the wipers and shit off of it. Okay, and then down in there behind these wiper arms on the driver's side, you'll see right there's the hole. 13mm bolt hiding in there. You got to pull that bolt out. I pulled the air tube off that goes down to from the throttle body down to wherever, intercooler or wherever it goes to down there. I pulled that thing out of the way. You can get the nut. The heater hoses were easy. They got them little clips. You just take a screwdriver and pop them up, twist the lines, they come right off. Then there was a 13mm nut holding the AC lines on just to the left of them, which I know my camera sucks, but right behind those AC lines, there's a stud sticking through the firewall with a 10mm nut on it. You got to take that off. Of course, I learned the hard way after fighting these door hinge bolts and getting them out, and then figuring out how that clip right there works. See, I mangled both of them up, and you can't even see them when you're trying to pull the dash out. But it's got two little safety clips. I guess the dash goes in and it's supposed to snap in. But here's the piece that I broke. It's just on the back of the heater box, and it was no big deal. There's not like a hole in it or nothing where it's going to blow air or anything like that. So I'll just I'm going to pull that out and just goo it up and stick it back in there. But man, I don't know what else to tell you, but you got to watch there's a video on YouTube of how to get the shifter knob off of these things. The console was easy, like 4 of them 7mm bolts. Luckily, just about all the bolts are about the same size and same type, you know, so. And you got to really pay attention to all these wires and shit, you know. There's a lot of stuff you got to unplug to give yourself room. There was a harness here in the corner. Unbuckle that one. Pop. This thing's got 1 million of push pins in there too, holding all these harnesses and stuff in there. So just take your time and take them things out. But like I say, I really recommend just take the dash pad off. You got to pop your little pillar post things off. Just they hang by that airbag crap, but just pop them loose, because the dash won't come out with these down in there. It looks like it will, but once I pop them loose, the dash came right out. And there's no clips or nothing up in that top part. The dash just goes and rests up in there. Or slot sets on top of them little tabs. So there's nothing you got to pry on or anything up in there. The speaker covers will pop out, but that didn't do no good. It didn't affect nothing, so I really didn't even need to take them out. Because once you get the dash loose, you got to reach up in there and unplug the speaker wires, or you could take the speakers out from the top and unplug them that way, whatever. But yeah, this is a bullshit job. This is why GM charges you over $2,000 to do one of these, which I know them guys do it all the time, and they know a couple of shortcuts. But when you're just a one-man operation like I usually am, you know, you got to take your time so you're not breaking a bunch of shit taking this stuff apart. Another thing is, if you're looking for an AC evaporator, they're on back order and they have no idea, GM anyway, has no idea when they're going to start getting them. So you go online, none of the parts stores carry them. Parts Geek had them. Of course, I ordered it. 2 days later, they say, no, it's on back order. So I call them back, and they had an aftermarket one. So I hate putting aftermarket shit in, especially a job like this. Matter of fact, I'm probably going to see if they got a new heater cooler. I wouldn't mind. It's not bad, but I mean, fuck, while you're in there, you might as well just stick a new one in it to be safe, because I don't want to do this job twice. This would probably be on my bucket list of, you know, maybe never to do again, but I don't mind trying something I want to do. I do Chevy trucks and shit all the time. And a lot of these other cars, Ford Explorers, Rangers, I've done a bunch of them, heater cores and whatnot, AC evaporators. This one was a bitch. It was really a bitch the way they got them bolts going through the damn door jamb, and then them little safety clips down there. Once you figure out how that shit works, you know, it'll come out, but it's heavy as hell too. Hope this helps somebody.